Early life and revolutionary ascent, 1769 to 1799. Born Napoleon di Bonaparte in Ajaccio, Corsica, on August 15, 1769. To a family of minor Italian nobility, Napoleon's early years were shaped by the island's turbulent relationship with France. Sent to mainland France for education at the age of 9, he excelled in mathematics and displayed a keen interest in military strategy. The tumultuous French Revolution, beginning in 1789, provided fertile ground for Napoleon's ambition. Though initially a Corsican nationalist, the complexities of the revolution and a falling out with Corsican leader Pasquale Paoli led the Bonaparte family to flee to mainland France in 1793. Napoleon, now fully committed to the French cause, quickly rose through the ranks. His strategic brilliance was first showcased during the Siege of Toulon in 1793, where he, as an artillery commander, devised a plan that led to the city's recapture from Allied forces. This victory, at the age of 24, earned him promotion to brigadier general and brought him to the attention of influential figures. By 1795, he further distinguished himself by suppressing a royalist uprising in Paris, solidifying his position. Within the revolutionary government, the Italian and Egyptian campaigns, 1796 to 1799. Napoleon's military reputation truly soared with the Italian campaign of 1796 to 1797. Leading a poorly supplied army of Italy, he defied expectations, achieving a series of decisive victories against the larger Austrian and Sardinian armies. His innovative tactics, rapid maneuvers, and ability to inspire his troops became legendary. The Treaty of Campo Formio in 1797, which he negotiated largely on his own terms, granted France significant territorial gains and cemented his status as a national hero. In 1798, seeking to undermine British influence in the East, Napoleon embarked on the Egyptian campaign. While initially successful with victories like the Battle of the Pyramids, the campaign ultimately faltered due to destruction of the French fleet by Admiral Nelson at the Battle of the Nile and a failed siege of Acre. Despite its military shortcomings, the Egyptian expedition fostered a romantic aura around Napoleon and yielded significant scientific and archaeological discoveries, from first consul to emperor, 1799 to 1804. Upon his return to France in 1799, Napoleon found a government, the Directory, plagued by corruption and instability. Seizing the opportunity, he orchestrated the coup of 18 Brumaire, November 9, 1799, overthrowing the Directory and establishing the consulate. As first consul, Napoleon quickly consolidated power, effectively becoming the leading political figure. In France, he moved to stabilize the nation, both economically and socially. His victory at the Battle of Marengo in 1800 against the Austrians further secured his position and brought an end to the War of the Second Coalition. In 1802, a constitutional amendment made him first consul for life, and just 2 years later, on December 2, 1804, in a grand ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral, he crowned himself Emperor of the French, marking the beginning of the First French Empire, the Napoleonic Wars and the zenith of empire, 1803 to 1812. As emperor, Napoleon embarked on a relentless campaign of military expansion that reshaped the map of Europe. The Napoleonic Wars, a series of conflicts against various coalitions of European powers, saw France dominate much of the continent. Key campaigns and battles include War of the Third Coalition, 1805, culminating in the spectacular victory at the Battle of Austerlitz, often considered his greatest tactical masterpiece, where he decisively defeated the combined Austrian and Russian armies. War of the Fourth Coalition, 1806 to 1807, resulting in the victories at Jena and Auerstedt against Prussia and Friedland against Russia, leading to the Treaty of Tilsit, 1807. which brought much of Western and Central Europe under French influence. Peninsular War, 1808 to 1814. A protracted and brutal conflict in Spain and Portugal that drained French resources and manpower, becoming, as Napoleon himself called it, his Spanish ulcer. War of the Fifth Coalition, 1809, marked by the Battle of Wagram, another major French victory against Austria. By 1812, Napoleon's empire reached its greatest extent, stretching from Spain to Poland. He placed his family members on the thrones of various European states, cementing French dominance, reforms and legacy. Beyond military conquest, Napoleon implemented sweeping reforms that had a lasting impact on France and beyond. Napoleonic Code. Code Civil. Established in 1804, this comprehensive legal framework standardized civil law, promoting principles of equality before the law, property rights, and secularism. It became the prototype for civil law codes in many countries worldwide. Administrative reforms. He created a centralized and efficient administrative system, streamlining governance with a hierarchical structure and clear chain of command. He also promoted meritocracy, allowing talented individuals to rise in public service. Education. Napoleon reformed the educational system, establishing lycées, secondary schools, to train future leaders and bureaucrats, focusing on science and mathematics. Concordat of 1801. This agreement with Pope Pius VII re-established relations between the French state and the Catholic Church, bringing religious peace after years of revolutionary upheaval while maintaining state control. Economic stabilization. He established the Bank of France in 1800 to regulate currency and credit, stabilizing the economy. Infrastructure. Napoleon initiated numerous public works projects, including roads, bridges, and canals, which modernized France's infrastructure. The downfall, 1812 to 1815. Napoleon's ambition ultimately led to his undoing. Invasion of Russia, 1812. This disastrous campaign marked a turning point. The vast distances, harsh Russian winter, and scorched earth tactics employed by the Russians decimated Napoleon's Grande Armée, with only a fraction of his 500,000 troops returning. War of the Sixth Coalition, 1813 to 1814. Emboldened by the Russian disaster, European powers formed a new coalition against France. Napoleon suffered a decisive defeat at the Battle of Leipzig, Battle of the Nations, in October 1813, forcing him to retreat. First abdication and exile to Elba, 1814. With Allied forces invading France and Paris occupied, Napoleon was forced to abdicate on April 6, 1814. He was exiled to the island of Elba in the Mediterranean, ostensibly as its sovereign. The 100 Days and Waterloo, 1815. Less than a year later, in March 1815, Napoleon dramatically escaped from Elba and returned to France. His loyalists flocked to his banner and he marched on Paris, reclaiming power without firing a shot. This period, known as the 100 Days, sent shockwaves across Europe. The European powers quickly formed the Seventh Coalition. Napoleon's final gamble came at the Battle of Waterloo on June 18, 1815, where his forces were decisively defeated by a combined British and Prussian army under the Duke of Wellington and Field Marshal Blucher. Final exile and death, 1815 to 1821. Following Waterloo, Napoleon abdicated for a second time. He was exiled to the remote British island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic, where he remained under close guard. He died there on May 5, 1821, at the age of 51. Likely from stomach cancer, Napoleon Bonaparte remains a complex and controversial figure. He was a military genius who reshaped Europe through conquest, but also an authoritarian who suppressed dissent. His legal and administrative reforms, however, had a profoundly positive and lasting impact, laying foundations for modern governance and law in many nations. His legacy continues to be debated, but his influence on Western history is undeniable.